Hi everybody, it's Jen. Welcome back to my channel, Hallmark Plus More, where we watch and talk about shows, movies, mysteries, Hallmark ornaments, and anything else that floats our boat. So today I'm going to be reviewing a Hallmark Christmas movie called Deck the Walls. Before I get into the review and my Gen rating, I just always want to say thank you to everybody who watches my videos and subscribes. It means the world to me, so I just want to say thank you because I sincerely appreciate it. So this movie was about a flip. The main character, Sal, is a contractor. Him and his friend from high school, Bryson, they were contracted to fix this, kind of flip the house. And it's for charity. So they're in a crunch and a deadline because they want the family to be in the house on Christmas Eve to celebrate Christmas in their new house. So, when you do flips for yourself, you kind of you want it to be good. But when you do flips for charity and for families, I feel like they have that added pressure. They want everything to be right. And then they have this deadline of Christmas Eve. And it gives you a little bit of a mystery at the beginning of the movie because the money was donated to the city specifically for this project. So you're kind of like, okay, did they know Sal? Did they know the family? Requesting them to be the contractors and providing the city with money to flip this house, basically to renovate it for this family for charity. The family is Principal Landry. So he just kind of had some tough times in his family. He's raising his daughter and her daughter's two kids. So he's a widower, and now he has his daughter and his two grandkids. There's sharing rooms. They're kind of, in a small rented house. So now everybody will get their own room, and he's a pillar in the community. They really want to do a good job, make sure they feel home and welcome. Sal's sister is Rose. She's an interior designer. She lives in the city. Sal is still in their hometown, so he recruits her to say, please come home and help me with this renovation. And I love the Sal character. He's just so down to earth, and I 100% believe that he truly is a contractor. He has that sibling bickering with Rose, which I love. He kind of has that bickering with Bryson, his friend from high school. And Bryson is played by Russ Brown, and he's more of a bigger guy. So the storyline for him is that he was a football player in high school. And Sal used to get picked on, and Bryson always stood up for him. And they were instant friends, and they've been friends since high school. So I kind of love that. He stood up for him, and they've been friends ever since. Especially when children are bullied or made fun of, if you see something wrong, injustice, you want to right it, right? And so he stood up for him, and they stayed together. Bryson got married and divorced, and moved back to town, and he didn't have a place to live, so he's living with Sal. So I love that they stayed friends, and now Sal is helping him out, after his divorce. And you see his ex-wife, she shows up, real piece of work. Whoever played Bianca, I don't know the name of the actress offhand, but she did great as the snobby ex-wife. Totally believable. So she comes back into play for a couple scenes. And Rose comes to help, and Sal doesn't tell Rose that Bryson is staying at the house. So there's another little conflict and drama. Bryson and Rose didn't get along in school. But so you kind of have them all living under the same roof. And then their Aunt Gigi is at the house too. So Sal and Rose lost their parents, so Aunt Gigi has really been there growing up. So she's, kind of been a part of their lives too. So you really just have Sal and Rose. They rely on each other, brother and sister, and then Aunt Gigi. So now you have Bryson in the mix in the family for breakfast and things like that. So I love that dynamic. There's definitely a lot of bickering in here. And then a reporter for the local news is wanting to do a report and a news story on this flip, since it's for charity and a pillar in the community. And the reporter's name is Jake Hunter, and apparently him and Sal did not like each other in high school for whatever reason. Sal thinks Jake didn't like him. Jake, thinks Sal didn't like him. So that was kind of, I love the way Sal was like, well, I don't want him to come. And, he was kind of like, I don't want to see him. And, obviously they hash out their differences, which is a very sweet moment later on in the movie. They're doing dishes, and they kind of talk it out. And it was almost like definitely a turning point for their friendship, because it was a huge misunderstanding, right? So, Sal and Rose's parents actually had a charity called Flipping for Others. And when they were younger, they would help people in need, renovate their houses, and just help people out. And apparently Jake Hunter and his family had a fire, and Sal's parents helped them get on their feet, helped renovate them. Sal doesn't remember that because he said his parents helped a lot of people. He didn't really keep up with who they were. But Jake thought Sal knew and kind of made fun of him and kind of looked down on him for being poor, which Sal did not, because he had no idea that his parents helped Jake's family. But so since Jake thought that, he was mean to him all through school. So, Sal didn't like Jake because he was mean to him, and Jake was mean to him because he thought Sal was making fun of him. So, like I say, big misunderstanding. Definitely glad they hashed that out, because even though Sal didn't like Jake, you can kind of tell, like, if he wasn't mad at him, he probably would like him. So, like I said, the actor who played Sal did an exceptional job. I loved him in this movie. So I'm glad they were able to patch that up, because you kind of saw that that sparked that friendship between them, and possibly a future. I think they plan to hang out or have a date after that. So I did like that part, just because I thought the actor who played Sal really did a great job being the contractor, being kind of nervous. Bryson was too, but Bryson seemed a little bit more calm and collect, but I think it was mainly Sal's company. So I think he had that added pressure, like I have to do this now. I'm going to be on TV. I have all this pressure, and I thought he played it beautifully. So I mentioned the conflict between the reporter and Sal. Then you also have the conflict and drama between Rose and Bryson, and then of course Bryson's ex-wife Bianca comes into play a little bit. And in typical Hallmark fashion, in the main love story between Rose and Bryson, his ex comes back and Rose misinterprets it and thinks they're getting back together, which they obviously aren't, because he has feelings for her. So that is like typical Hallmark, you know what I mean? So they patch that up too, obviously. And throughout the way, I kind of mentioned that Rose was in the city, right? She lives in the city. Part of the reasons why she didn't come home was it was just too heartbreaking for her. Everybody grieves differently. She lost her parents coming home. She saw all the memories everywhere she looked remind her of her parents, and that was really difficult for her. Sal stayed. Him and Aunt Gigi, they stayed. But yeah, like I said, everybody grieves differently, and there's no time period on it. They say time heals all. I don't necessarily agree, because you could have somebody who passed years and years ago. You see a song, you see a place, you see an item, and that memory and that grief all comes back. So, it's difficult, and she dealt with it by moving away and trying to distance herself from anything that reminded her of her parents. So her coming home to help Sal was kind of hard on her too. And then of course dealing with Bryson, in the same house while she's doing this reno, or helping Sal with the reno. So she finds this red box, which has some memories from her, right? It has some ornaments. And it has a couple things specifically. It kind of reminds her of her childhood. And one of the things that was in the box reminds me of my childhood. And in fact, I have it in my house because it reminds me of my childhood growing up. And it is a ceramic green tree, and it looks exactly like this all the way up to the white star. So when I saw this in the movie, I was like, oh my goodness, I have I have one. So I totally understand reminiscing and the nostalgia of, my grandmother, my mother, they had these. I bought them because it reminds me of them. Christmas to me is very personal. I have a lot of things in my house that are memories. A lot of my ornaments remind me of my childhood, my mother, my family. Christmas Disney movies that I knew growing up. And obviously my children and my family have theirs as well. But when I saw this, I was like, oh, I can go get it off of off of my mantle. I have this. So that was a sweet personal aspect for me, because I was like, yes, I understand why this is so important to her in her childhood, because it's important to me in my childhood. And as you can see, I have it in my house as a Christmas decoration. So they basically are told that this money that's coming in, they aren't able to allot it all to the reno. So like I say, Sal's already in a crunch because he needs to do it before Christmas Eve. And now he has a news station filming and looking at their progress. So that's added stress. And now they're find out that their budget is cut. And so they come up with, the mayor says, we're having a skating fundraiser and we're going to give a portion of that money to you if that'll help. So, of course, they're, thrilled. They go to this skating event. They come back and a tree falls and breaks the roof. Like, it's literally the trees inside the house, and the roof is all open. So they're like, okay, well, we just got money from the skating fundraiser to help, and now all that money is going to go towards the roof. So basically they're back where they started, on a tight budget. They're blessed to have the extra money because obviously they need to fix the roof, but they won't be able to have any extra money for the reno, which was the main point. So when the tree came through the roof, it broke her red box, and the ceramic Christmas tree that I just showed you. So when she saw that, she kind of flipped out, walked out of the house. Because it was almost like breaking her childhood, right? Because that reminded it of her. She was already having a hard time coming home. And she, got this red box to reminisce, to help put in the house. And then the tree is broken. It's destroyed. So that was really hard for her. She leaves, she comes back, and she even says, like, look, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I walked out. But yeah, I can totally relate, because like I said, that if it broke, I can go to Hallmark and buy another one. But years and years ago, I would have been the same way, because I looked for it 20 years ago and I didn't know where to find it. So when I saw that it was available, I definitely bought it, and I've had it for some time now. But I can understand where she's coming from. So that was hard for her. She's kind of coming to terms with her grief. And she kind of had a heart-to-heart with Sal about it, her brother, because like I said, they apologized, but everybody grieves differently. You can't really get upset with somebody. I know people where they've lost their parents or their siblings, and they can't even make it to the funeral. And people are like, you didn't even go to your mother's funeral or your brother's funeral, because they're grieving. They couldn't face the other family members, or they just, couldn't get over the fact that because remember, funerals are usually within days of the person passing sometimes, or a week even. So, everybody deals with grief differently, and everybody says their goodbyes, in different ways. So I'm glad they were able to kind of have that conversation. No hard feelings. That's just, they come together. And again, they're able to just kind of have that conversation, which, like I said, can definitely be difficult. So with the conflict and the drama between Rose and Bryson, and Sal and Jake Hunter, the reporter, and even some friction between Sal and Rose, they kind of all patch everything up. Even they finished the roof. They still had a deadline of Christmas Eve. They still had that limited budget. And then they get another anonymous gift for a little bit more money, like days before it's finished, which obviously helps because that's what they needed. They really wanted the original amount that was allotted to them, but the city had to take part of it because they found mold in one of the buildings, and they had to take, a part of the original amount given to them to fix that mold. And then that, like I said, then they did the skating event to help, and then they had to use that money for the roof. And so when the second anonymous donation comes in, that really did help them get the house ready. And of course, in the end, you do find out who does it. But in the middle of the movie, when you kind of have that conflict with Bryson and Rose being under the same roof, the four of them, Sal, Bryson, Rose, and Aunt Gigi, because they're all in the same house. Aunt Gigi likes to play a game, game night. And she makes up this game, and she actually calls it, it's a holiday game. She makes it up. It's called Guess the Christmas Character. And I always love it when you do games. I'm big on games, board games, video games, card games. I just like getting together and having fun with friends and family. Any kind of games you can think of, bringing people together, because it's always so fun when you do that. I'm not great at games, but I enjoy it. I enjoy the fellowship in doing that. So when I watch Christmas movies and they have game night or they have trivia, I enjoy it. I'm one of those people where I'm not good at it, but I like to play. So I loved seeing that. I was like, oh, cool. She made up her own holiday game. However, one of the characters, so everybody has like a Post-it note or something on their forehead, and you have to guess their character using as little words as possible. And the character on Bryson was the one the camera kept focusing on. So you really didn't even see the characters of the other 2 or 3 people on the sofa. They really just kind of kept flashing over to Wes. Wes Brown, played by Bryson, played by Wes Brown. And his character was John McClane from Die Hard. Hallmark, I don't know what your obsession is with Die Hard, but this is the 3rd movie that has Die Hard reference in it. There's so many other Christmas movies you could reference. Why you insist on doing Die Hard over and over and over again, I don't know. But it will affect my rating because I think it's ridiculous. So I was like, seriously, of all of the Christmas characters that you could come up with, this is one out of 4 that you put in this movie. So I definitely thought that was interesting, and I didn't like that. I liked the idea of the holiday game, very fun. But yeah, I definitely thought that was interesting. And then throughout the movie as well, when they're going shopping, because like I mentioned, Rose is an interior designer and she was brought in to help with the renovation. So you see them shopping at Home Goods. Home Goods is plastered everywhere. And then they make cookies, and they mention Nutella, and they have little containers of Nutella. So this movie was sponsored by Home Goods and Nutella. And apparently Hallmark's getting paid for Die Hard references, in my opinion, because that's ridiculous. 3 movies and you've referenced it in every one. But yeah, I guess movies now are getting more commercialized because Home Goods and Nutella definitely sponsored and paid money for this movie because it's all over, and they actually mention it several times that they're at Home Goods and Nutella, and then you see it. So but all in all, I definitely liked it. I liked home renovating. I feel like that's one of my dreams is, flipping houses, because I just think it would be fun. Now, you do have to have things in place. If you're going to flip houses, you have to have the capital, which I don't have. You need to know contractors, which I don't. I think flipping houses is one of those things that a lot of people say they enjoy doing, but you have to, know people that know how to do a lot of this. If you're not handy, if you're not a handyman, you need to know a plumber, you need to know an electrician, you need to, you kind of have to have these people in your contact list if you want to be successful at flipping houses. However, that being said, I love watching shows about it. I love watching shows about flipping houses or renovation because it's fascinating to me. Not that I have experience in it at all, but it's just fascinating for me to watch, the DIY shows. And yes, the reality shows, you got to take them with a grain of salt, just like all reality shows, but I enjoy watching people fix them up. So this for me was a good movie. I liked how it ended. I mentioned that you find out who donated the money. The original benefactor was Aunt Gigi. She wanted to bring the siblings together. She wanted to give back. Her parents, like I mentioned, Rose and Sal's parents did it. It was called Flipping for Others, was the kind of the charity that they did, as I mentioned, when they were younger, when they helped Jake Hunter's family. And then the second benefactor, you know how I said once they fixed the roof and they needed more money, a second benefactor brought in, and believe it or not, it was Jake Hunter. And it was after the conversation he had with Sal in the kitchen when they kind of hashed out, I was mad at you for this. Well, really? Because I was mad at you for this. And it was this big, huge misunderstanding. Jake Hunter apologized for being mean to him. I thought you were making fun of me because I was poor and your parents helped me. So I was mean to you. And Sal was like, I didn't know my parents helped you. And then Jake was like, well, I'm sorry I was mean to you then. This has just been a big misunderstanding. And then, like I say, you can kind of tell they kind of liked each other. So maybe they're going to go on a date and start dating. So maybe this was Jake's way of extending his apology. Like, he apologized to Sal. They're on good terms now, but I think he still felt bad, and that's why he donated more to the cause. So I thought that was a sweet gesture as well. So when I do ratings and kind of do a rating, I call it my Jen rating, review a movie. It's always what I loved about the movie, what I didn't love or disliked, what I disliked about it. Were the characters believable? Not necessarily realistic, but believable. If I went into this imaginary world, would I believe that Sal really was a contractor? Did I really believe that there was conflict between him and Jake, or conflict between Rose and Bryson? And then the overall feel of the story of the movie, how I felt the next day. And I mentioned earlier from the beginning, I loved Sal. I thought the actor that played him was great. So I did believe 100%. I loved the bickering between him and his sister. I thought that was real sibling conversations. And, Sal not telling Rose that Bryson was staying at the house because she might not come. And I'm like, yes, that seems realistic to me, with siblings. And then, all the little conflict and drama in the movie, I really did believe the characters. I thought they did a great job. I love how it ended up, because you kind of had the main love story front and center with Rose and Bryson, but you kind of saw, or at least I did, I kind of saw something brewing between Sal and Jake. I just felt like they're going to hash this out eventually, and I just got a feeling that they were into each other, but didn't really, on the surface, they didn't like each other, but I felt like, that was going somewhere. So I like that as kind of a side love story that didn't really get off. You didn't see a lot of it, but you saw that it was the beginning of something, in my opinion. At the end, they kind of left it as they might go forward with the relationship. And again, I love movies about renovating, because it's a feel-good story. It's going to end with them flipping a house. And this, it was for charity. So it ended with the family moving in on Christmas Eve and, giving back. I love charity. I love giving back. I love that feeling of helping somebody. That's what this world needs. We need to help people. We need to love, not hate, and just giving back. And it is such a rewarding feeling. It really is better to give than to receive, because the feeling of giving stays with you long after opening a present and receiving a gift. So I really got that feel watching this movie. So this movie definitely gave me the feels. A lot of, I just went over everything I loved about it. There is a couple things I disliked. Obviously, I mentioned it in my review. Very much dislike another Die Hard reference. Out of 6 Hallmark movies that I have reviewed, 3 of them had references with Die Hard. So I don't know what they're trying to do over there at Hallmark. There are so many Christmas movies you can reference. But why they keep this with Die Hard, I don't know if somebody at Hallmark is getting paid for Die Hard references in their movies, because yeah, I'm not a fan. You could reference so many other movies. So yeah, that kind of annoyed me. You're not getting a top review from me because, once again, a Die Hard reference. And when you were watching that scene, I mean, you didn't even see the other names on the other people's forehead. They just kept showing John McClane, John McClane, John McClane. And then, of course, she makes a reference and he goes, oh, John McClane. But, like, you showed that over and over again to reference Die Hard. So whoever at Hallmark loves Die Hard, like, you need to get over it and stop putting it in your movies. It's the complete opposite of Hallmark. You make this network and these Christmas movies to feel good about happy, wholesome family, and then you keep referencing Die Hard. So I don't get it. Die Hard's a great movie. I'm not doubting the movie, but I don't know why it has to continue to be referenced in your movies. So for that, because once again you referenced it, I'm not going to be able to give you a full review, even though I loved the characters. I thought the actors did great. So for this Hallmark movie, my Jen rating is going to be 4 gold crowns. Keep the references of Die Hard out, and maybe you'll get 5 gold crowns next time. But for this movie rating, I'm giving you 4 gold crowns. I hope you enjoyed my review and my rating. And until the next Hallmark movie, I will talk to you then. Bye.